How's it going, YouTube? In this video we have myself playing my MagnaGarurumon build that we all know and love against Lilith Loop. Lilith Loop is super strong. I think it's a tier 1 deck of BT7. This is at Pro Play Games, and I actually met a guy. This guy, he's coming from out of town, which is really cool to see people, you know, make it and then check out the locals. So if you're ever in town, come check out Pro Play Games. Pretty cool store. Okay, so we're off to a pretty good start. Starting with the scatter mode, we have a Stravy, and I don't think we do have a Davis, so we're gonna just put him to 2. Korikaku, like opening rookie Davis is honestly about as good as it gets, right? No complaints at all. Now, depending on what happens with scatter mode, you know, will definitely dictate how this game goes. He's going to analog first, which lets him pick up the Eyesmon before swinging, which is super powerful. The Eyesmon does survive, which is, you know, people might be mad or sad when that happens. Sometimes it's good though. He might have wanted to, you know, obviously to die and then get all this cycle. We're able to go into Kuma, at least deny the Mimera, which is nice. But it looks like I don't have a way to bounce the Eyesmon, so in this case, the Eyesmon still, you know, did its damage. It lived, and then it's going to get to swing again, right? So in that case, I think surviving is not bad. We hit into an analog, and then I play Soranger to pass. I think the idea here is that, you know, if he's going to discard Eyesmon and kind of just end them, then we'll get a bunch of memory. But obviously they can just Digivolve on the Eyesmon. So at least we denied the Demimera proc, but we know he did have the one. Looks like he also had a second one. So he's got 3 Digimon on the board, gonna go into a promote. And, you know, this is like the part where it's like, it's a Lilith deck, but you definitely could just win by discarding Eyesmons and Nidhogg's. Those cards are, again, I know I say it all the time, but those cards are just so strong. Gonna go into a call-in, taking back the promote, and then promoting the other one. You know, being very aggressive, getting me down to 1 secure already, and the promote survived, right? So, like, that's another thing that I have to deal with. You can already see this is, I believe, his 3rd turn, right? And he already has so many cards in trash. Gonna just go into Eyesmon in the back. We do have Davis, so we're set to 3. And now I'm in this awkward situation where it's like, okay, I need to take his body off the board, but I need to start doing damage myself. And he's got double analog and a bunch of cards in trash. So this is the point where, like, even if you put the Lilith player at 1, they could do so much with that, right? It's still early in the game, like I said, but like his setup is pretty much there. So this position is very scary to be in. It's hard to figure out, you know, what is the best way to approach and how we could try and win the game. I think for sure we want to put him to 1, right? Make sure we give him as little memory to work with as possible. Picking up Koji is good. Koji might be how we close the game out. I absolutely love Koji. Even without the Magna, you know, the Inheritable just puts in work. We can use the Boko to stay at 0. Hammer Spark to go to 1. This can let me go into the Beowulf, and then we can bounce his promote. So step 1 is we took the promote off the board, which is good. Step 2 is how do we, you know, still put on the pressure and give him as little memory as possible to work with. Korikaku swings, it dies, which is honestly fine. At this point we need 3 swings. We have Boko, Stravy, and then potentially Hybrid for game. Granted, the Boko can always die to a Deathclaw, right? So it's not a guaranteed extra hit, which is why in this case I like going for the Koji there. That way, if Boko is taken off the board, we could potentially still win the game, right? So he has 2 memory to work with, Jack Raid, and now it's time for Lilith shenanigans. We could very easily lose this turn for sure. Triple Jack Raid in hand. Yeah, that's a yikes for me. Goes into the dog. He can mode change, but you know, he can swing first. Hits into an ice wall, which might have definitely, you know, changed his play. He goes into a Nidhogg to just pop the Boko. But, you know, I guess he might not have had the mode change, right? With mode change, he just wins. So I guess he just didn't have it, right? Sometimes you have a lot, but you don't have everything. We swing, drawing for the Upa. And then Stravy survives, which is actually kind of relevant. Now we can do the Koji effect to go into a Magna. This is why we played the Koji last turn, right? In case we need the extra hit. Like I said, the Boku did die. We use the Koji to get the extra memory, or the Magna to bounce and then Koji to get extra memory. We can restand the Stravi, get a bunch of memory just in case there was a Jack Trade in the trash, and then we can swing for game. So a pretty close game, you know. I guess that Ice Wall might have saved me. It's hard to say, right? Because like he still would have won if he had the mode change, but maybe he had a line of play where he can get lethal otherwise. But the Ice Wall did not give enough memory to work with. Hard to say. Either way, a super close game. And you can see like his initial scatter mode surviving was actually, you know, pretty good for him. But yeah, Lilith is super strong. In this tournament, I played against 3 Lilith players. It's just so good, you know, going into like the Ultimate Cup and stuff. I would be super scared to play against any purple Lilith player. It's a very difficult deck. If you guys haven't played it, I recommend you try it out just to see what it's like. Like it's definitely skillful, but at the same time you can just like open Eyesmon, discard, and then do crazy stuff very, very early on, right? A lot of times you don't need the crazy Lilith combos to win the game, which is, I guess, good and bad in a way. I don't know. It's strong though. It's definitely scary. So in this game we mulligan, and then my mulligan hand is awful. I remember it's just terrible. So hard play Kumamon is like, when this happens, like, come on, you know my hand is atrocious. If I remember correctly, my hand is double Kumamon, Beowulf, Hammerspark, and MagnaGarurumon, which is, needless to say, unplayable. Now it puts me to 3, which is nice because we can go into Beowulf. At this point I could swing, Beowulf survives, and then we Magna bounce his Cerberus, and then we can still potentially win the game. But that didn't happen, so we're forced to just hard play another Kuma. I think we only drew like a Hammerspark or something else that was also unplayable. So I might be wondering like, okay, well, if you can go into Magna, then why swing with the Beowulf? And the reason is because we're already behind this game, right? Like hard dropping the Kumamon puts me behind. For me to be able to win this game, we need to take risk and catch up. Now, the Beowulf dies, meaning that our risk doesn't pay off and we're going to lose this game anyway, right? But I want you to understand why we take that risk, right? Because when we are behind, we take risk to catch up. And if you are ahead, then you play safe to stay ahead. At least that's my reasoning. That's how I play, not just this game, but really most games. That's just how I think about stuff. So, you know, Lilith is doing Lilith stuff, and I kind of just glossed over what he's doing. But the reality is that, you know, we have to hard play the old Kumamon. And, I mean, let's be real. Like, there's no way we're going to win this game, right? Like, it's just not happening. So it's a case where, like, you know, my opening hand wasn't great. We mulligan into a worse hand, and that's GG. I had one line that could have maybe won the game. I go for it. It didn't work out, so we lose the game, but it's fine. You know, if the Beowulf had lived, we could have gone to Magna, bounced his Cerberus, and then maybe that game is winnable, right? Would be in an infinitely better spot for sure. Okay, we're going into game 3 here. I think that, you know, my Magna build is actually quite well against Lilith, but I hear Lilith players say that they just don't like the blue matchup in general. But I don't know, I mean, I feel like Lilith is so good, man. Like, Lilith's one of those decks that, like, it could beat anything. You can literally beat anything with Lilith, which I guess is why I would definitely consider it a tier 1 deck. So I guess the question for you guys is, do you guys consider Lilith a tier 1 deck? And the other thing that I find interesting is that, like I keep saying, you know, like, the Lilith part of the deck is only a small part of it. So you don't have to play a bunch of Liliths, and then you could play Liliths with, like, Mastamon. Some people play a Newsmon, or just nothing else. Really flexible. You have a lot of slots to work with. Okay, looks like game 3 is starting up. So I think in this one I told them that I was gonna go second, but then I start going first, just out of, like, I guess, mistake. But because I told him because I started and I saw my hand, I was like, whatever, let me just go first, right? Like, I get to choose, and I just started going. Kind of got ahead of myself there, but you know, it happens. It's all good. We go Strabi and then Blue Memory Boost as a solid way to start. He's got Scatter Mode and Gassimon. Honestly, fantastic opener as well, right? Like, the Gassimon is a great response to my Memory Boost, and then Scatter Mode is exactly what you want to see. So we just go into a Koji, see what we can get. The dream there is that he would hit into a Davis, right? But looks like it didn't happen. He's got one Eyesmon on this card. So already, you know, off to a very strong start. When you open scatter mode and your first discard is a regular Eyesmon, it's just so strong. And a Nidhogg on top of that, right? Like, look at how much he's getting for free just for, like, you know, having his scatter mode die. And he's got the Goslimon to, you know, completely annoy me. Goes into an analog. I think at this point, like, you know, I know you want to get the analogs as soon as possible, but I don't think giving me 3 memory is the correct play there. There's definitely a world where he doesn't give me 3 memory. Like, maybe you don't develop the analog, but just don't give me 3 memory, right? Like, the Goslimon is making my life so complicated. So I think giving me 3 memory is a mistake for sure. We're going to the Kendo to gain Jamming. We can swing, bounce, get the memory for the Koji. We hit into KO's Lucemon, but hey, we have Jamming. This is why the MagnaGarurumon with Jamming is so good for this deck. Having your Beowulf survive is crucial. And now we go into the Magna, bounce his guy, get the restand, and put him to 1. So look at how quickly we completely shifted the game, right? He had 2 bodies on the board and had nothing. And we went to, like, he took a damage, I completely cleared his board. We have a Magna on the board with a Koji and a Herald. Like, think of how strong that is. That's actually insane if you think about it. All because he gave me 3 memory to work with. The Magna swings. We don't have the restangers yet, but we hit into a Jack Trade. We're just going to put him to 1. And I'm honestly okay with this because, you know, like, he passed his turn, but he's set to 1. So, you know, I'm like, how much can he really do? We still have Magna on the board. Those decks don't run any removal, right? So the Magna's going to stick around, and we can try and utilize the restand to go for game next turn. So it puts me to 1. You know, I only have 2 bodies on the board. And if I can't get the Magna restand, we wouldn't have game. So we go Hammer Spark to go to 2. Swing with Strabby first, see if we hit a Deathclaw. We don't. So now that Strabby has survived, we can Hammer Spark to go to 3. Play a Strabby, who's going to let me add a Heavy to my hand. That's going to trigger the Koji to gain a memory, and the Magna to restand. We hit into a Deathclaw, but Magna's still standing, and that's game. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.